Why is insecurity such a big issue in today's culture?
Mm. The first thing that I think of, and I think of this because I talk to people all the time, especially being in education and being around young people who are trying to figure out where do I fit in the world and who am I in this world. And one thing that I think contributes to so many insecurities, social media. That
Yeah.
social media can be a great thing. I don't dislike social media because I know that it can be very powerful in the way it's great for networking, it's great for learning new skills. You get on TikTok, you can learn a new recipe, right? You can find people that you can relate to, so just having more access to community. But I do believe that there has to be boundaries when it comes to social media because with one click of a button, you have access to someone else's life. And so, one thing I tell people, especially talking to young people, don't allow someone being able to take a picture to determine your worth,
Mm.
right? And so we get on social media and we say, man, I wish I had that, or I wish I looked like that because of what someone else is posting, not knowing that this 30 seconds that it took for them to take this picture or this 1 minute that it took for them to make this video, what else was going on in that other part of their day, right? Or is that truly theirs? We don't even know that. We don't know what it took. We don't know what it takes to maintain it. And so I feel as though just having the access to the so many lives and so many images and so many videos and what our life could look like if we were to be in the same position as the next person, or what I could look like if maybe this was different for me. I feel like that creates us to have a lot of narratives
Right.
and make us look at ourselves, or if I don't have this or if I don't look like this, then I'm not as good as that next person. And so it causes us to have perceptions of ourselves that are not true. And so one thing I definitely think contributes to a lot of insecurities these days is social media for sure.
Yeah, so social media is definitely a big part of it. I know
Mhm.
that with social media, just like you said, I think the biggest problem with insecurities is
Mhm.
comparison.
Oh yeah.
Comparison
Oh yeah.
kills.
The thief of joy.
Yeah, comparison will kill your
Mhm.
confidence.
Yep.
Comparison will kill your self-esteem.
Mhm.
Comparison will completely make you feel less than because
Yeah.
you're looking at somebody else's progress.
Mhm.
Like I can easily look at another podcast that's been around way longer and say,
Mhm.
wow, like
Yep.
they're killing the game or whatever
Yeah.
it might be, and think, well, maybe I'm not gonna be that. Or
Mhm.
maybe I'm not gonna whatever, or
Yeah.
I only got these many subscribers and I've been
Mhm.
doing this 3 months or whatever it could be, and I could be down on myself.
Yeah.
But I do believe comparison can also help you if you use
Mhm.
it right.
Right.
Because there's a such thing as healthy competition
Mhm.
where you are looking at, dang, like I'm trying to be a professional athlete and I'm looking at this dude,
Yeah.
he's working out 4 times a day.
Mhm.
I'm only doing one.
Yeah.
Maybe I should be pushing
Yeah.
myself.
Motivation.
Yes, exactly. There
Mhm.
are ways to compare
Yeah.
with motivation, but
Mhm.
with that comparison and you say, "Oh wow, like I feel defeated." I
Mhm.
think that's the misconception of,
Yeah.
okay, I need to look at this differently.
Mhm.
Yes, I'm looking at other people, but I'm not looking at them saying they're better than me, but
Right.
I'm looking at them saying, how do I
Mhm.
get there?
Yeah.
But then like you said, some people look at other people and it said if you don't look like this, there's
Mhm.
rejection, right?
Right.
So we have a lot of women unfortunately doing BBLs and
Mhm.
doing these fake crazy facelifts and
Yeah.
doing all these things because that's what men are saying we want or whatever it
Mhm.
might be. And if you ain't got no booty, then
Yeah.
you ain't nothing
Then
or
you're
something like
right.
that, right?
Mhm.
So it's kind of like, okay, well, then they'll change their bodies
Yeah.
unnaturally just to
Mhm.
please a man that probably don't even want you.
Yeah.
So who
And you
know?
probably don't want them.
Yeah, exactly.
If we being honest, is that the type of man that you want, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
looking for a man that accepts you just the way you are. I
Mhm.
I never really looked for a man, but
But
with
yeah,
with
right.
with that being said,
Mhm.
might be a little tough because
Yeah.
apparently a lot of women are looking to change themselves to be
Mhm.
more appealing or attractive to a man, and
Yeah.
that kind of goes into what she values as well.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
looking into that, but yeah, comparison I think is a big killer when it
Mhm.
comes to that, and it is the source of social media because all you do is
Mhm.
look at people on vacation, and
Yep.
it's like, well, this person is 16 and a millionaire.
Mhm.
That's not everybody's calling.
Right. And we don't know if they're truly a millionaire. Once
Right.
again, it goes back to like that picture or that video, you don't understand what is going on behind closed doors.
Mhm.
And so it's so important. And I think I even had to become mindful of this because, of course, social media wasn't out when we were, MySpace was the thing, but we weren't, people were just being teenagers on MySpace. It wasn't, we weren't trying to be adults.
Right.
I don't know. I didn't have a whole lot of access to social media influencers at that time. And so the more that I noticed that, and this is just speaking from my own experience, that I would get on social media and I'd be like, oh my gosh, that person or that woman is so pretty, or why can't I have that career? Why can't I be in that same place that they are? But maybe they came from a family where our lifestyles were different, or they had a certain network, or just all these different factors that come into it. Like you were saying, even with your podcast, you look at someone else's podcast and say, man, why can't I have all of the things that they have? Well, they've had a podcast for 6 years versus you've had a podcast for 3 months.
Right. And started off with a $10,000 budget
Yeah.
or something.
And so it's just like it just looks different, and that is okay because that's a part of your journey. And I think it's very important to be able to separate. This is my journey, and I, like you said, I can look at others and say, "Oh, that's motivation." I know that's God saying I can get there, but I'm not going to allow that to make me feel as though I'm less than, or to invalidate myself and just like who I am. And once again, that this journey that God is taking me on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Hmm.
How does insecurity affect our day-to-day life?
Insecurity can be can stifle your growth,
Mm.
right? Because when we think about insecurities, once again, it causes you to do a lot of self-doubt and have that inner dialogue where you're constantly questioning like who you are, what you're capable of, so your abilities, and just anytime an opportunity comes for you to grow or it comes for you to really push yourself, it's like, ooh, I don't really know if I'm ready for that, or I don't know if I'm capable of doing these
Mm.
things. And so if you are not being put in positions where you are experiencing new things, or you are willing to like I said, push yourself outside of your comfort zone, then obviously you're not going to grow. And so that's one of the first things that I think of. Even when you asked me to be on this podcast, I was like, it's so funny because I told God I want to do more public speaking, and I want to do more of just like being able to touch others and be just a person that represents who he is, and being able to share my story and share my journey.
Won't he do it?
Listen, and then you hit me up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this would be a great opportunity. But it took me a little minute to email you back because I was like, I don't know if I'm really ready to be on somebody's podcast. Now everybody has access to me, who I am, and they can get on the internet and see, Erica, you're on here talking. Whatever you say on the mic now is going to be on YouTube. And so if I wasn't able to do that, I wouldn't be able to grow. And now I'm feeling more comfortable being here and sharing who I am, right?
So what you're saying is you had a desire to do something.
Mhm.
God opened the door,
Yep.
and because of that desire, you wanted to grow on purpose.
Mhm.
You wanted to grow on purpose.
I
Okay.
did. Mhm.
So you
And
did
this
an
is
act.
walking in my purpose.
There it is.
Being here is
Walking in purpose while
walking in my
growing in
purpose.
purpose. There
Mhm.
it is.
Yep. But if I would have allowed that insecurity and the idea of being on camera, and I don't know if I'm really ready to be on camera, then I would have stopped the opportunity from happening for me, right? And so it's just there's just another way that like that self-doubt, like I said, the inner dialogue that you have with yourself can really cause you to create these narratives and make you feel as though you are incapable of things. But God opened his door because he knows that I'm capable. So why would I not walk through it?
Yeah.
But with just making sure that we are intentionally combating those insecurities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know when it comes to insecurity personally, I dealt with the fear of speaking too, but then I was also a preacher for
Mhm.
years, and
Mhm.
I felt way more comfortable like having personal
Yep.
conversations
Mhm.
than I did on a stage. I would
Yeah.
still do it on
Mhm.
behind the pulpit, all that. It was still something I would do,
Mhm.
but it never I feel like I never felt comfortable in that space
Mhm.
where it was like I didn't let my nerves or my confidence or my self-image make me even go there. But then even with this,
Mhm.
I didn't want to start this podcast till I lost like 50 pounds or
Mhm.
something crazy.
Mhm.
And I wanted to do this in the third. And it's like, yeah, no, I need to be obedient now and
Mhm.
then grow on purpose
Yep.
while I'm doing it. So
Mhm.
where episode 1, you might see me at this weight. Next thing you know,
Mhm.
episode 18, I'm looking like a whole nother host.
Listen.
So it's like, let me get in the fire and then I'll
Mhm.
transform as I grow.
Yeah.
Or whatever it might be. And it's like, with also my weight's been up and down my whole
Mhm.
life, right? I
Mhm.
was small, then I was muscular, then I was fat and small, all that stuff.
Mhm.
And that also hurt my confidence.
Yeah.
And I know that in the line of work of educating or speaking or trying to
Mhm.
teach people things, if you don't speak with conviction and that
Yes.
confidence,
Mhm.
it can't reach people.
Yep.
And if I'm not effective at doing my calling, I
Yeah.
need to make changes.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like, it affected my day-to-day life, even with my wife and
Yeah.
having confidence and,
Mhm.
when we got married and whether I was going to be able to lead her or whatever it might be,
Yeah.
comparing certain things. When
Mhm.
we first met, she made a lot more money than me. So I was
Mhm.
like, okay, what does that mean? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
Yep.
like my
Mhm.
insecurities kind of caused me not to be able to step up because of how
Mhm.
I felt about myself.
Yeah.
But little did I know she thought the world of me, and
Mhm.
I could just walk in that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a self-esteem,
Mhm.
confidence crippling
Yeah.
when you lean into those insecurities. And I know the devil will
Mhm.
go to work on you with
I was
those
just about to say that.
insecurities
Yep.
and put that in your mind
Mhm.
and cause you to never take that leap
Yep.
that you are designed to take because God
Yeah.
has opened that door, but you
Mhm.
never walk through it because of your own self-doubt.
Yep.
I know Tajay mentioned the story of Peter walking on the water,
Mhm.
how you were walking on water, but
Yep.
you allowed doubt and
Mhm.
everything else around you to keep your eyes off of him, and
Mhm.
you ended up sinking.
Yeah.
And it's like, imagine if we just never kept our eyes off of God and we trusted that even if I feel like this is impossible or that
Mhm.
I can't, I know you said I can.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I feel like that
That's
it
good.
to me really is how it affects day-to-day life
Mhm.
and how it might impact us in a big way,
Yeah.
just living life.
And I like how you were talking about, the relationship with you and your wife. If you would have allowed those insecurities and fed into them and stifle you, what would that mean for you now, right? You're married, you have a loving wife, but if you would have allowed those insecurities to stop you, that relationship wouldn't have grown,
Not at
right?
all.
And so you would have been going in a totally different direction than God had planned for you. Like I said, I just think it's just so important to make sure you're just working actively to combat those because they come. It's natural for a person to experience
Absolutely.
insecurities. And I think that is one of the things I talk about too is emotions. It's okay not to feel a positive emotion, right? You embrace it. And so if you're feeling insecure, that's fine. But what are you doing to shift those thoughts that you're having? Yeah.
Got you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how does the devil use insecurity against us, which is kind of what we just kind of touched
Mm-hmm.
on, but
Yep.
how does he go to work on us when we are feeling not the best self
Mm.
that we should be?
So when we think about insecurity, and I actually looked up the definition for insecurity when I was doing my studying, and one part of the definition is you are uncertain, right? Or you are more open to threat. And so when we think about the devil, he's threatening us, right? Or like we were just talking about, he will take those insecurities and he's like, "Ooh, I'm gonna use that as my strength. That's your weakness, so I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna use that as a strength of mine." And so I think it goes back to how he can stop you from walking in your purpose with God or walking in the way that God has the plans that God has for you because he now has control over your mind. He has control over your heart and your spirit and whatever the case may be. And so just using those thoughts or using those insecurities to be able to have you questioning your abilities, creating those false narratives and those true things that are not true, and it causes you to feel like there is no way that I can love or like myself if I'm constantly thinking about all of the things that I don't like about me, and those thoughts are just getting stronger and stronger, and so it also causes us to stray away from God,
Mhm.
because if you are in God's word you see how God views you.
Mm.
But if you're constantly feeding into what the devil believes of you, there's no way you're going to be able to see who God believes you are, which once again causes you to push away from him, push away from the destiny that he's had for you, the purpose that he has for you. And so, and the devil knows that. And he's going to use it for sure. He's, like I said, he's going to use those weaknesses that you have to his strength.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually just talking to our youth
Mhm.
yesterday about that, and we were
Mm.
talking about how the devil can't make you do nothing,
Mhm.
and God can't make you do nothing.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
there are influences,
Yep.
and whatever influence you go
Yes.
off of,
Yep.
you will listen to. It's kind of
Mhm.
like that angel on one shoulder,
Yep.
the devil on the other
Mhm.
shoulder. And it's kind of like, okay, I'm listening to both of these influences,
Yeah.
but ultimately, God has given me free will. And
Mhm.
I have to figure out, am I doing God's will
Yeah.
or am I doing that will? And
Yep.
with that convincing
Mhm.
or that voice in your ear,
Mhm.
sometimes the devil will convince you of a lie
Yeah.
that you know God said is true.
Mhm.
I'm gonna say that again.
Yeah.
Sometimes the devil will
Mhm.
convince you of a lie
Mhm.
that you said that you know God said is true.
Right.
And like you said, we use the word to fight back,
Mhm.
saying, the devil, you said this,
Yep.
but nah, it says in his word this.
Mhm.
That's why it's called the sword.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
that's how we are able to fight
Yeah.
against the things that we know are not true. And that's why it's important, like she said, to be in your word.
Yep.
Because if you don't know the word,
Mhm.
you won't be able to stand 10 toes on the
Yep.
word. And if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, right?
Mhm.
So knowing that word, knowing what the Bible says, that you are having that knowledge in your head and
Yep.
hiding it in your heart, and knowing, no, no, no,
Mhm.
no, this is what I believe
Yeah.
because this is what I read, and faith come by hearing, and hearing of the word of God.
Mhm.
And that's what I have faith in, and I'm
Yeah.
not wavering. I'm going to be steadfast and unmovable on what
Mhm.
I heard my Jesus tell me in these red letters here or in this chapter here, and I'm
Mhm.
going to hold on to that.
Yeah.
And it's very important that we stay rooted, because the devil, he will, as we know, he is seeking
Yep.
like a roaring lion who he
Mhm.
may devour. So
Yeah.
he's looking for every slip up. He's gonna put whatever bait on that hook that he know you like,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
it's either up
And
to you
use
to
that.
fall for it
Yep.
or not.
Yeah. Like I said, when you're insecure, you're more likely to fall for it because
Hmm.
you're not standing on the word. And so it's like the devil knows who he can attack, and he's more likely to win in that attack because of how close you are or how close you may not be to God and his word. I've been doing devotionals, and this is one of the reasons I said I would love to come on and talk about insecurity, because I actually started my year being proactive, and I said I feel like I can't think of a year where I did not experience insecurities. And once again, that's okay, but didn't allow that to let insecurities win in some type of way. So I started going through some devotionals at the beginning of the year, and on one of the devotionals it says it follows we have the same power within that raised Christ from the dead, thinking about followers of Christ. If that is true, why aren't we living our life as if that power resides within us,
Mm,
right? And so just thinking about, okay, if I believe that God gave me that same power, I'm ready for war. I'm ready for battle. And so once I start to doubt that power, and once I start to doubt the power that God has given me, I'm more likely once again to let the enemy win. And so yeah, yeah, the devil will he's smart.
yeah.
He is smart. Yeah.
That's why Tajay, our faith-filled friend,
Mhm.
she was just talking about the power of faith, and
Mhm.
how a lot of times it wasn't God. Well, the God did it,
Yeah.
but it was our faith
Mhm.
that did it,
Yeah.
or convinced him to do it.
Yep.
Like with like I love the story of the woman with the issue of blood.
Mhm.
Her faith made her well.
Yeah.
He didn't come there to
Mhm.
heal her. He was
Mhm.
just minding his business, doing what he had to do.
Yeah.
But she pushed through the crowd. She heard,
Mhm.
and faith come by hearing, that this man
Yep.
is healing people, and she's had this affliction for years, and
Mhm.
looking at a no way out situation.
Yeah.
But then she found something that could finally free her from this
Mhm.
pain,
Yeah.
and she was able to push through and make that happen for herself.
Yeah.
But she believed in not her own power,
Mhm.
but in the power that she heard about.
Yeah.
And I think that's so powerful.
Yeah. And I think it's important to name she wanted to be better too.
Hmm.
Because when we're thinking about insecurities, they sometimes we can get comfortable in that space of like, I'm okay with feeling insecure because I know once I start to really embrace my power, it's going to require more of me, right?
Hmm.
Because now if I'm saying I know God and I know what he can do and I'm faithful servant, faith is, believing in the unseen. So now I have to continue to walk even when I'm like, it's not looking too bright over there. I don't know if I'm going the right way, but if I'm trusting in God and being faithful to him, being obedient is so important in your faith. Even thinking about the paralyzed man, right? When God was walking and he saw the paralyzed man, he asked him, "Do you want to be healed?"
Right, right.
So when you're thinking about going into becoming your more secure self or walking in your power, it's like, do you want to walk in your power? Do you really want to believe who you are? And if you do, okay, God has the tools for you, but that's something you actually have to want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That kind of reminds me of being comfortability
Mm-hmm.
and insecurity.
Yep.
And sometimes the devil will convince you that you are just fine where you are.
Mm-hmm.
If you do this, that's too much work.
Yep.
Just stay where you are.
Yep.
That's where I
Yep.
want you to
This is
be.
where you're good. You're good right here.
Ain't nothing
Yeah.
happening to you. You
Mhm.
straight. It ain't no stress.
Right.
Got no responsibilities.
Yep.
Stay in this place of wallow in your sorrows. That's
Mhm.
exactly where he wants you to feel powerless,
Yep.
even though you have all power.
Mhm.
Anyway, I'm not going to preach.
Yeah.
But
Thanks for watching Growth on Purpose podcast, aka GOP with GOD. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can be notified of all future content.